Everyone, this is Dr. Martin from Auburn Optical. Today we're talking with Abbie Pinter. She is our amazing afternoon co-op here at the practice. So Abbie is going to be talking to us about something that is very true for many of us, and that is stress. Abbie, take it away. Tell us what you know.
All right, so stress is our body's natural way of protecting itself. If we feel a demand or threatened or that we're endangered, we are going to feel stressed. A great example of this is the fight or flight response. With this, once we feel a demand or the threat, we are going to release stress hormones, and this could be adrenaline or cortisol, and this will increase our breathing, where our muscles will tighten and our heart rate's going to increase, and in essence, this is going to make us stronger and have more stamina. Now, if an individual is stressed out for long periods of time or frequently, they might have what is called chronic stress. Chronic stress can affect almost every one of our body systems. It can speed up the aging process, increase your risk for heart attack or heart disease, and even suppress your immune system. And while all of these negative biological consequences coincide with stress, scientists and researchers are actually trying to pinpoint just what about stress is causing these effects on our bodies. And what they have concluded is that it is possible for our negative connotation of stress and just our perception that stress is harmful to our body could be the reason why we are having all of these negative consequences on our health and everything. So to take a little bit further of a look into that, I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of studies, and the first one was conducted at the University of Wisconsin, and what they did was they tracked over 30,000 American adults for the course of 8 years, and they asked two main questions. The first question was, have you experienced a lot of stress in the last year? And then the second question was, do you believe that stress is harmful to your health? They then used logistical regression models to control for socio-demographic factors, access to health care, current health status, and even the cause of death. They then looked at the National Death Index mortality data to basically look at who survived after those 8 years. And what they found was that the individuals who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. However, this was only true for the individuals that had also believed it was harmful to their health. When they looked at the individuals who said they experienced a lot of stress in the previous year but did not believe it was harmful to their health, this group actually had the lowest amount risk of dying, and this is even including the individuals who said they did not experience a lot of stress in the previous year. So if this hypothesis is correct, then the belief that stress is harmful to our health could be the 15th largest cause of death in the U.S.
What? That's like crazy to think about. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy then.
Yep,
Crazy.
exactly. And so then I want to talk a little bit about the study conducted at Harvard. So what they did was they gathered a group of participants and they divided them into three groups. And they first told all three groups the same directions, which were that they were going to go into a room in front of a panel of 3 judges, and they were going to give a 5-minute presentation on their weaknesses. While they were doing this, the judges were going to give negative nonverbal feedback, such as rolling their eyes or sighing. And so we had one group that was just given these directions, and they went in and made their speech. And then we had another group that was told to ignore the external cues. And they did this by the researchers had placed an X off to the side of the judges, and they focused on that instead of the judges. And then we had one group, our reappraisal group, and they were told that stress was functional to them, that it was an aid. They weren't told that it was any less stressful or any less important, but that stress was just their body preparing them for the situation, and that it was an asset to them. So they measured the consequences of this in a couple of ways, but the physical response of it was they looked at the cardiac output, which is right here, and this is the amount of blood in liters per minute that your heart is pumping out. So the reappraisal group actually had the highest amount of blood pumped out in liters per minute, and then the group that was told to ignore the external cues was actually in the middle, and then the control group, who was just given the basic directions, had the least amount of blood pumped out in liters per minute. And you can see this also reflected in the graph when we look at the total peripheral resistance, and that's a measure of vasoconstriction, so how constricted the blood vessels are. And you can see the reappraisal group had the least amount of vasoconstriction, which makes sense because they had the highest amount of cardiac output. And then again, the group that was told to ignore the external cues is in the middle. And then our control group has the highest amount of vasoconstriction, which makes sense again because they had the least amount of cardiac output. So to visualize this a little bit better, if we pretend that these are the blood vessels, this one at the top is constricted, and that's what it looks like when we feel stressed, which is why when we see stress, we relate it to increased risk of heart attack or heart disease, because it's not good for our blood vessels to be in that constricted position all the time. However, with the example that I just gave, our reappraisal group actually had blood vessels that looked like this, so they weren't very constricted. And the shape of this is actually similar to emotions such as courage or joy. So it's kind of crazy to think about simply just by changing your biological reactions, how you think about everything, it can change your biological reactions to that. And then here are my sources.
Wow. So what you're saying is that stress is a factor, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative factor for us. Does that sound true?
Yes, we've just been told for so many years that it's bad for us, and it's actually harming us more than we think it could be.
Wow. So it's kind of, like I said, like a self-fulfilling prophecy or like a sugar pill.
Yeah.
We know it's going to be bad, and then therefore it's bad for us.
Yeah, kind of mind over matter.
That is so cool. Thank you so much. Again, this is Abbie Pinter. She is the amazing afternoon co-op here at Auburn Optical. Thank you, Abbie.
Yep.